I am Brian Mays. Follow along on our adventures chasing all kinds of game in the heartland of America. Our passions run from the North Woods rivers all the way out to the wild and wide open prairies. We are untamed, and wild is all we chase. This is the Amaazen Outdoors Podcast.
Oh, that's a ski, dude. That's a moss ski.
There's one on the tree right there.
Oh, there's another one. That's a good way to start the morning, dude. I'm gonna drink some of my beer quick.
All right, folks, we're back for another episode of the Amaazen Outdoors Podcast. I am Brian Mays. Thank you for tuning in. If you would, like, share, subscribe, help me grow this show a little bit. Real quick before we get into today's guests, today's guests are Jessica and David. They are the owners of Paddlefish Adventures in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. And they also own a Treehouse Studios, which is kind of an artist collaborative effort trying to bring together artists and other entities into nature with the St. Croix River. It's a really cool collaboration they're trying to do and just be good stewards of their community. So we talk about their business today and give people who are kind of located here in northwestern Wisconsin an idea of something maybe they can go do with the kids over the weekend or something like that. But before we get kicked off on today's show, I have to mention HW Launchers. Head on over to hwlaunchers.com if you're in the market for a pigeon launcher. There's some unique stuff Jeremiah has done. If you're in the market for some bird launchers, head on over to hwlaunchers.com. Tell Jeremiah you heard about his pigeon launchers here on the Amaazen Outdoors Podcast. I will mention RPM training products as well. Got to go with my boys down there at Hunt Ready. New run and gun style system is out now, so go head over to huntready.com and check out their new website. That's all I got. Let's get on with today's show. All right, well, welcome to the show, folks. I'm super excited. In-person interview today, which is very rare, unfortunately, these days. But I have David and Jessica, the owners of Paddlefish Adventures, here. We're in Osceola, down at the Acreage is the name of this place right now?
The Acreage is the name of the nonprofit, yeah, okay. But we are in the Treehouse Studio.
The Treehouse Studio, yeah, correct. Which is Jessica's studio. But David, why don't you kind of introduce yourself to the listeners, and Jessica, then you can introduce yourself and kind of dive in why we're all here today.
My name is David Eichinger. I am a lifelong outdoor enthusiast. I've worked with scouts and other youth groups. Professionally, I've been a carpenter for the past 25 years, did a lot of tile and stone and woodworking. Lived in St. Paul most of my life. And then about 9 years ago, we decided to move to the Croix River Valley, and we found a place on the river and about 5 miles south of Osceola, and that's what brought us here. And our son Joe went to high school here and had a great experience, and we both got involved with the scout troop and led wilderness stuff all over the country with them. It was a great experience. And then we started Paddlefish Adventures, and shit, I feel like I'm fucking it up.
Well, don't do that anymore. I mean, yeah, I don't mind if you swear on the podcast, but no, that's a good start. I mean, at some point you got to pass off the baton. No, we're definitely here to discuss paddlefish, but to kind of understand how paddlefish came about. I'm interested to hear this story that has been teased a few times now, but we'll get to that in a second. Jessica, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about your studio here.
Sure. And
then we can kind of tie in paddlefish and everything together here.
Yeah. My name's Jessica Turtle, and I am a public artist. and we are sitting in the Treehouse Studio, which is my studio that's brand new. My whole background has been...
Next to a giant frog.
Yeah, we were sitting next to
a giant tree frog.
Not a tree frog. It's a northern leopard frog.
Oh, you did say that. I'm sorry. I do see the little, the mosaic tile and everything. I was like, tree frog, but, my bad.
That's okay. I really shouldn't be that picky about it. But it is a keystone species, so it is important to recognize what it is. And I've worked very hard on it for the last 6 months or so. But anyway, so since you can't see the frog, I'll talk a little bit about, I'm actually a trained sculptor, and I've been doing it for a really long time, but I'm also a painter, an illustrator. I've done a lot of different things, and I'm also an outdoor person, so I identify as an eco-artist, and that's what led us here. So that's why we're having this conversation.
Sure, yeah. Well, David called me earlier this year and heard me on a podcast, and kind of you guys brought me into the equation, and finally, after the 4th of July weekend, we're finally sitting down and doing this. Partly my fault. It should have came out before the 4th of July. I had a crazy dog incident and didn't feel right leaving the dog the other Monday. She's been fine now. Actually got into the vet, by the way.
That's good.
Good.
No issues. Turns out, hyperglycemic event like I thought. So it's good. I was worried it was heart or, possible heat conditions. But anyways, I digress.
We're dog lovers.
Yeah. Well, the first time we went out on the canoe, I just sit in the boat with a dog, so it was all right with that.
That was my dad's dog. We have a flat-coat retriever who is 12 years old and just recovered from a stroke, and a 6-year-old shepherd husky. Both great dogs.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Any well-behaved dog is a good dog.
Yeah.
And even if they're not well-behaved, as long as they're only your problem, not mine, they're a great dog.
we go swimming with them in the river, and it's like a sandy side channel, and we swim across to the other side. It's a great big sandbar, and the dogs just tear up and down on that and tackle each other into the water and chase frogs, and we just smile at them, and they're living their absolute best life.
There's nothing better than river time for a dog.
Yeah, I agree.
My dogs love it too. We were out over the 4th and found a little spot, where we could let the dogs off leash and have a good swim. And one dog didn't want to leave at the end of the day, but hey, she was tired the next day.
Our friend's dog hides under the dock when it's time to leave.
She doesn't want to go. Yeah.
Mine just stands at the water's edge and looks at me like, "Are you going to throw that stick again? Because I'm ready to go. I don't want to leave."
Oh,
Uh-oh, we got the alarm going off.
that is an issue.
Can we pause?
We can pause. Is that
All right.
is that going to continue to go off?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like one of those rodent alarm things.
Oh, fun.
Sorry,
I can just
listeners,
hear
we'll
it.
take care of it.
Well, we have the pest alarm off and have recovered the bumblebee that was on my shoulder. So, anyways, to get back to kind of where we were at here, you guys had teased me earlier with a story of a fire and kind of how maybe it all comes around full circle, kind of, I guess, maybe, or
Entirely. Yeah.
So, Jessica, why don't you start the story? You guys kind of enlighten me on this whole thing. I'm interested now.
Sure, no problem. It's a great story. So, David and I have been together for quite a long time, about a decade and a half. And through that time, we've always kind of talked about, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? We're creative people. We're neurodivergent people, if that's not already clear. And we really enjoy doing things for community and in the public. So we're like, what can we do? What can we do? And I tried working for multiple nonprofits, bounced around, did a whole bunch of weird stuff. We've done project after project. And then finally we decided that our community really needed an art center. And we decided to do it. It was after a lot of conversation and a lot of kind of hemming and hawing on whether or not we could pull it off. And then I'd always driven past this building that's downtown Osceola. It's a gorgeous old building, and it used to be kind of a funky recycled food store, essentially.
Bent and Dent.
Bent and Dent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I kept saying.
It's a good name for a store.
It
Though.
was, yeah.
I think it was called Mr. Deals.
It was Mr. Deals.
Mr. Deals.
Yeah.
Bent and Dent.
Yeah. And we decided that, I kept going off of like every time we would drive past this building in town, I'm like, as soon as that opens up, I'm gonna turn that into something. And then it finally opened up, and I was like, shit, we have to do that because we said we were gonna do it, so now we're gonna do it. And the space opened. We went and met with them. It was a 5,000 square foot space. It was gorgeous, like brick exterior, cement floors, tall ceilings. It had everything we needed, and it had a double wide door to get giant weird things in and out if we needed to, and open floor plans. We could have a gallery. We could have live music, and we got to work. It was like, I think April of 2022 that we started building this art center out, and then by November we opened. We had this grand opening. We had a big party. We had a giant puppet there. We had some live music. We had, like different art activities set up, and we had gorgeous beer and a beautiful art exhibit, and it was fun. And then we, after that, had another event and another event and another event. And then about 72 days after we opened, I got a phone call. I was making banana bread at home. My son was at home, and I get this weird phone call from Larry. Thank you, Larry, if you're listening. That said, I don't know if you know, but your art center is on fire. Yeah. So I just kept making banana bread. It's like, I don't really know if that's real. I'm like, what do you? All right. And then I looked at my son and I was like, what do I do? Like, do I need to go there? He's like, we kind of laughed, and I just finished the banana bread and then got in my car. David was actually in Stillwater doing a snow sculpting competition. And I didn't want to call him either because I knew he really loves snow sculpting. He's with his friends. He's having a great time. Like, he can't do anything either. He can't put out a fire. So I'm like, I'm just going to leave him alone, let him do his thing. And I drove downtown. I was like, oh, shit, it's real. Like, this is actually there's a fire. And the building next to us, it was a vinyl shop called Redbird. And I think it was a toaster oven snafu that caught the vinyl and the cardboard. And it took off. And it took us with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Took them 6 hours to get the fire out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it totally destroyed everything.
It did. Yeah. And we had we put everything into it, everything we had. And we were scrappy. We kind of do everything ourselves anyway, but there was a lot of sweat equity. It was a lot of investment. And then, beautiful artists had their work in there. Like, we were heartbroken. And we kind of sat there just stunned and then we had to go through the insurance process. Obviously that sucks. That goes without saying, and to anyone listening, please get good insurance. And then, so I kind of decided just to take a break from that of like, okay.
And this was in 2002?
2022.
2022.
Yeah, so 3 years ago. So we took 2 years before we made any moves of like, what's next? And we thought a lot about, so the art center was different in the sense that it was art and ecology. Most art centers are just all encompassing as far as art's concerned, but this was like a real focus on, we wanted to get nature like really back into learning, and that was always the intention. It was called Natural Heritage Art Center. And natural heritage is the inventory list that every state has, a natural heritage inventory list. And that's the list of species ranked by least concern, whatever.
Sure.
And there's funding in each state for these lists to exist. And I got a hold of those lists, and that's where this whole thing came from. But anyway, to go back a little bit, so then we took 2 years. I did a ton of public art projects. I did murals and stuff locally, just to kind of get back into the creative mood. And, David did some great projects as well. And we kind of got to talking of like, if we're going to do this, if we're going to do it again, could we do it differently? Because we lost a lot of sleep. The overhead was high. It's a very stressful endeavor. That's not something you build to make money.
Yeah.
It's something you do because you want to improve your community, and we're not done. We know that. So, we didn't plan on getting rich, and we still don't. I don't think that's ever been our intention. But then we're like, okay, so the limitations of that space was really high overhead. The second limitation was that, it's a building, and we're stuck in this building. We don't have direct access to the environment at all. So we want to teach about something that we're not in. And that just didn't make sense. We could do it differently. And that's when I met with the Acreage, which is the nonprofit that we're currently sitting in. And they had a space. They had a 1,200 square foot space. And so that became a possibility, but then we still had another limitation of like, we want to teach about the river, so how do we do that? And then somehow a canoe outfitter became available at the exact same time, which is not great, but not something not something that David and I are uncomfortable with. Like we can do big risks for some reason, maybe we're foolish, but he's been miserable doing what he does. He's not happy doing what he does, and we wanted a lifestyle change. And the lifestyle change was that he would run the canoe outfitter, and then I would run this small art studio, and then the two would work together to put on some pretty crazy, unusual events that involve the river and get people moving and enjoying. Yeah, and so that's where we're at now.
Well, and I guess, I've got listeners all across the country, so you guys are located over here in Osceola, Wisconsin, which is pretty close to the Twin Cities, so you have pretty good market of people that are looking for outdoor activities and, that connection to nature.
Yes.
Osceola is what, I guess,
it's an hour.
40 minutes from downtown St. Paul.
45 hour, depending where you are in the cities.
Yeah.
So
It's a reasonable distance to travel for something, and it's gorgeous out here.
people can go out for the day or camp for the weekend and
Yep.
get here at reasonable time on Friday night.
Well, and I guess, too, where you're located in Osceola, you've got Interstate Park right here.
Yes.
So, the canoe outfitter is actually located in St. Croix Falls.
Yep.
So you guys are kind of like right in between this beautiful stretch of river. Doesn't get as much boat traffic as further south.
Yeah.
So it's still a really great canoeing opportunity. People know me from my guide business. I guided up north, but we went out earlier this year, and man, there's good looking stuff,
Yeah.
and there's some nice fish in this river down here. So for me, it was very attractive. And so I guess, we've talked a little bit about how we've gotten to Paddlefish Adventures, but like, what is Paddlefish Adventures?
Yeah, David, what is it?
We decided to do this. It was last summer. I was in the middle of a big renovation project. And she was like, "Hey, Eric's is for sale. We should buy that." And I was like, "You're crazy. I don't have time for that." And
You said that many times.
went back to work for a few more weeks, and she kept kind of needling me a little bit. And then she took me out on the river one afternoon, and we set up tents on a sandbar and hung out and took a nap and had some beers and some snacks and swam. And she's like, "Don't you want to do this every day and help other people do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And so I think literally the next day we put an offer in on it, and then we started brainstorming all the fun things we could do. And we'll do the rentals. That's what Eric's used to do, and that's great. I'll help people out get on the river. That's fine. But my passion really is getting people out there, showing them the hidden parts of the river, teaching them maybe about some species that they wouldn't have noticed before or seen before, why it's interesting, tell them about the rocks, the trees, all that stuff. I really like leading night paddles, and that's something people didn't even know you could do, is go down the river at night. So kind of all these things, just like take it another step deeper, and hopefully get someone to notice the river in a different way and really start caring about it.
Yeah, it's a very unique river. We've covered it on the podcast before with just that Wild and National Scenic Riverway Act that was created, and it being one of the first ones the first one of like 8 original rivers in that act that it's had time to kind of rewild in a sense. You go north of here, there's no development on the river anymore. There's a couple pockets, and that's it. And down here, you can see it starting to kind of disappear. Now you go further south, and good luck. But this little stretch of the river below the Taylor's Falls Dam down to
William O'Brien
is a very unique stretch of river. It's big. It's a bigger stretch, but at the same time, it offers a lot of different things that I only thought were really offered at kind of north of the dam, and that's not quite true.
Yeah. I've paddled all over North America and seen much bigger rivers, much smaller rivers, and I love them all. But yeah, this section of the St. Croix, it's stunning, and the wildlife on it, and the different hidden stuff in it. It's a great spot.
And that was something we noticed too, is like the other rental companies are kind of targeting a specific run, a very like small area on the river. And although the dalles are really cool, which the dalles are just the geological evidence of the river, and it's gorgeous and it's really fun to paddle through there. But below that, so from Osceola to William, it offers, I think, more of that secluded river feel that you're not getting when you're farther up, closer to the dam. And I think that we offer that trip for that specific reason. The reason is that that's like one of the favorite ones that we do.
Yeah, it's my favorite part of the St. Croix, and I've paddled the whole thing multiple times, and I love the upper St. Croix. The little rapids are fun, but down here you get the big bluffs and cool hidden backwater areas where you have it to yourself. I mean, you get back in these little spots, you don't see anyone, and the fishing's great, and you'll have beavers swimming around you, and otters, and all that stuff, all the wildlife, all the nature, and it's like you have it to yourself. It's your own little private river, and it's stunning.
Yeah, there's a lot of backwater that is inaccessible from anything really but a canoe or a kayak.
Right.
It's not really accessible with the guy with his bass boat.
No.
And even there's some channels that I like when I drop people off for rentals, and I point it out on maps, and I describe it to them real in depth, and they're like, all right, great, I'm going to do it. And then I pick them up, and they're like, nah, I chickened out. But when I guide people, they just follow me, and I take them in, I skirt around the trees, and bring them back in there. And on some of them, it's like you get down a little bit, and then there's a tree that fell down last week that I haven't seen before, and it's like, oh, well, dead end, we got to turn around, and that's part of it. And I think that's when people are out by themselves who haven't done it before, they're not as comfortable with that sort of thing. So
Sure.
That's kind of where some of the guiding comes into play.
Yeah.
Just kind of teach people about that type of traveling. Like, it's okay. You can turn around. You can backtrack. And
So lay out for the listeners here kind of what is the gamut that you guys are offering. Well, just a basic canoe rental, and then let's talk about some of the more other stuff. So you're offering a couple different trips lengthwise, and that's distance down the river. So what's the total distance of river that you're kind of operating on right now? And
so our commercial use permit is good from St. Croix Falls all the way down to Stillwater.
Okay.
That's 27 miles. Great for a weekend trip, overnight.
Is there an opportunity for people is there marked campsites down that way too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're great. They're taken care of by the National Park Service. They all got a fire grate. Normally they're built right along really nice sandbar.
Yep.
They're in good spots.
And the permits are free.
Yes.
You have to get a permit for them now?
You have to get a permit
When did that change?
That's been like that for quite a while.
Is that
on this section of river.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I know north you didn't need a permit
Right.
from what at least I understood.
Yeah, I think it's just proximity to the Twin Cities.
Sure.
And it's free. It's kind of like the Boundary Waters, to where I think they just want you to come in, talk to a park ranger about the rules, and then sign something saying that you understand it.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're also trying to prevent, one camp, because they're multi-group sites, if I recall, right?
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Well,
Yeah.
again, so they're trying to probably spread out use a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends. And I mean, I don't know, the permit. I guess the permit systems are pretty simple because you can do it online, or you can also just go in person and get it too. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
It's okay.
So that's like the longest trip that you guys are doing at this
Yeah,
point.
At this point, yeah.
Is from Taylor's Falls to Stillwater.
Yep.
And it'd be overnight trip. What are some of the day stuff that you guys are doing? Like what's that kind of intermediate trip, and then what's kind of a short trip? There's probably people listening that are interested in all potential trip lengths.
Yeah, the popular one is St. Croix Falls down to Osceola. Most people for that use Taylor's Falls canoe rental. We drop people off in Wisconsin Interstate Park, which is nice because it's right at the base of the Dalles. So when we drop you off, you kind of take a right-hand turn and you can go up and paddle around those cliffs up there. It's really cool to see if you've never seen it. And then you can turn around there, go back down to Osceola. That's 3 hours on average. 2 hours, maybe a little bit under if you're paddling the whole way, but most people stop for a picnic and to swim for a little bit. I had a big family. They took 8 hours to do it because they were playing around in the sand for hours and hours and hours. And when I picked them up, they said next time they're putting in at 8 in the morning and getting picked up 8 at night, so they have 12 hours to do it. So you can literally take as long as you want. But it's about 3 hours on average. We also do Osceola to William O'Brien. That's 3 to 4 hours. And then if you did interstate to William O'Brien, that's like 5 to 7, depending on the paddler.
And the wind.
And the wind. We can get a fierce south wind.
I'm very familiar with that wind in a drift boat and a raft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I would much rather be in a canoe when that happens.
Yes. Yeah. And experienced paddlers kind of know you can kind of hide from the wind on one side of the river or the other a little bit, but it can be tough. I took the Osceola Scouts out one spring. It was early. There wasn't leaves on the trees yet. And it was windy. And I took them back into every back channel I knew, every single one. We were just hiding from it because it was just howling up that main channel. And there was a point where the back channel ended. It's underneath a railroad bridge. And you kind of have to paddle straight. There's a down tree going out into the main channel, like perpendicular to the side channel. And you have to like just paddle straight out into the main channel and take a left straight into the wind. And I had a bunch of young scouts with me. I was paddling my canoe solo, and I had pretty much all the gear in the canoe. And there's one little guy paddling a solo kayak by himself. And he was just paddling as hard as he could to get out and around that tree. And I mean, 2-foot waves are coming up and over that tree and hitting them. And he finally got out enough and made that turn and just tried to paddle, and he was just staying in the same spot. And I'm hanging out there at this heavy, an 80-pound canoe with probably 200 pounds worth of all the kids' gear in it. And I'm just trying to like stay in that spot right there, and I'm getting tossed around, and I'm like, come on, buddy, you could do it. And then finally got traction and got out around it, and then we ducked back into the next channel. But that was intense.
At least he wasn't going upstream.
Yeah.
Because I've been in that boat where I'm putting everything I got on a set of oars, and I'm not going down. I'm going up.
that day would have been easier to go upstream, but yeah, we had our crew waiting downstream for us that we had to get to, and so it can be a super lazy river. There's been nights when we go out and we just float the whole thing, just staring up at the stars the whole time. And
what do you
things just like glass.
At least in my experience, what I've kind of noticed is early morning, it's always typically glass. Mm-hmm. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and from like 10 to 5, that wind can be pretty gnarly on the river. And it's not every day, but when it does pick up, it's like seems to be like that 10 to 5, and then like 5 o'clock hits, and it's just glass again.
It tends to, yeah.
It seems to actually follow the population of people using the river, honestly. It's like people are not on it before in the morning, and they're not on it after 5. I mean, it's like, I think the best time to go is after 5.
Yeah, and we tend to offer more later trips, I think, than a lot of the other companies, because, again, it's the better time to be on the river, and
I know some of the other companies are trying to shoo everybody off the river by 5.
Yeah.
Because they want to close down.
Yeah.
So that's kind of unique, and I think an opportunity for you guys if you're willing to, work in the evening. I think there's a market for it.
I mean, this is not really work. I mean, it is a little bit, but not really. Like, we get to enjoy being outside with you. I don't think that's a problem for us.
Yeah. I had to go rescue a guy the other night. He broke his paddle.
Which we still can't figure out how that happened. But
no, how do you break a paddle? I've paddled thousands of miles. I've never broken a paddle. But
I broke an oar once.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, that's sheer like.
I lodged it in between. It was a wooden oar.
Yeah.
And I jumped the gun. I got a brand new raft, but the oars were on back order. I bought a whole package. And the guy's like, "Do you want me to send you this?" I was waiting for the oars. I'm like, "No, I got oars. Send them to me." Well, freaking maiden voyage with my brother. We were on the Flambeau. And I was heading through, I think it was Beaver Dam Rapids, class 2, class 3. I think it's class 2 if it's ripping. And, class 1, not ripping.
Yeah.
But it's just a little technical. So we decided to take the technical chute. And it happened to be unlucky. I dropped the oar to make a correction, and it wedged in between a V-shaped rock with 2 rocks together. I don't know, it all happened pretty quick. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just snap. And we were like 4 miles from the landing, the takeout.
Rapids make sense, but like a sandy bottom river.
He was on a sandbar.
Yeah, he was
That's a little.
it's a little harder to understand.
It sounds more like a personal problem.
It does. Yeah. I feel like he cracked it over the boat, but that's fine.
Anyhow, so
Yeah, you had to rescue this guy.
Yeah,
was it after dark?
no, it was in the evening.
Okay.
I actually called him. I was like, hey, how's your paddle going? Because I figured he'd be done by then. He's like, well, I didn't want to call you, but it's like, well, what were you gonna do?
You're gonna have to tell me at some point he broke my oar or paddle.
And, yeah, I mean, he didn't even make it halfway. But so my dad was like, are you upset? And I'm like, no, I get to go hang out on the river. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
and I paddled over to him and gave him a little bit of shit and then handed him a new paddle and went down to the van. It was great.
Yeah.
It was
Not a
fine.
problem. Not a problem.
And I got to get a little unexpected paddling on the river.
Yeah. Well,
So it was fine,
I've heard. I know a few people who've owned kind of similar operations in other areas, not on the river, specifically. At least this particular incident, but yeah, they had customer lose a canoe.
What?
Yeah, and like literally lose this canoe, and they found it like 3 weeks later.
How do you lose your canoe?
I don't know, and where they had lost their canoe, there was a lot of mosquitoes in between them and the road. And then once they got to the road, there was no guarantee that,
And it was on a lake, not a river?
it was on the Flambeau, yeah.
That
okay,
does
the
not
river.
sound fun.
Yeah, so possibly, I don't know the whole story, but I'm assuming they were,
They didn't pull it up high enough on shore. And
that or there
maybe-
was some rapids and they spilled and,
Yeah.
the canoe
Yeah.
went downriver and they
Yeah.
couldn't catch up.
Oops.
Yep. No, I've heard of it happening. You get rain upstream and you pull the boat up on shore and go to sleep for the night. And overnight the water raises 6-12 inches and wake up, your canoe's gone.
So that actually leads me to a question. Being below the dam, I've seen the upper St. Croix go through fairly. I would say it's pretty consistent, but I mean it can come up pretty good. Mm-hmm. How are things work down here below the dam? Do they regulate that water pretty well, or do they adjust it often?
I think they
Like
tend to
this year
leave it.
We've gotten a lot of rain.
Yeah, I think they tend to kind of leave it a little more natural. I don't think they monkey with it too much. I know they lowered it last summer for some repairs, but I think generally they kind of leave it alone and let it fluctuate a little more naturally.
Yeah, we've seen some pretty extreme variations
Yeah,
year to year,
just-
season to season, frankly.
Yeah, and it tends to be not so much the rain that we get here, but the rain that they get in northern Wisconsin.
Sure.
And since we moved in, past 9 years, they've gotten some big storms up there. And it's like a week later, all of a sudden, we were living here, and it was in August. They got that 10-inch rainstorm across Duluth in northern Wisconsin.
That was like 8 years ago.
Yeah, and it was,
I
I think,
remember
the third highest flood, and it was in August, and it came up, at the bottom of our landing, there's a cul-de-sac, and you got to walk another 20 feet from the cul-de-sac to where the little dock is, and that dock's normally a few feet above the water, and the water, that flood, was at the top of the cul-de-sac.
Wow.
I mean, it was
I paddled over the drinking fountains.
at Interstate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put in before Lake of the Dalles, paddled through Lake of the Dalles, through the forest, into the picnic area, paddled through the picnic pavilion, got out on the main channel. We were floating down. We were both in kayaks. We were actually laying on the kayaks, just letting the current take us down.
It was really fast, so it was
the park service pulled up next to us, and they were like, "River's closed." And we were like, "We live on it," and they're like, "Okay."
Turn around. No, they told us to go back.
Yeah, they're like, "Turn around, and go back to where you came from," and we were like, "That's impossible. That's 8 miles up a very flooded river. We can't get back up there. We'll just float down to our house."
We just kept going. Yeah.
But yeah, they had all the landings shut down. So sorry, Park Service, but we didn't put in at a landing. It was cool. But we really appreciate kind of all the different seasons of the river and all the different variations of it. Living on a lake is cool, but a river, there's so much life to it and so much variation. And on the 6th of July, it rose a foot overnight. And so it's really interesting. And all of a sudden,
So you're saying what? Yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was up a foot from where it was the day before.
Okay.
And so then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can get back into closed slough. So I had customers that day. I was like, you can paddle through.
You like
I'm a
to,
fidgeter.
Yeah, I am too. That kind of like make sure I'm away from the table.
Sorry, I was fiddling with my hands, rubbing my fingers together, and Jessica keeps tapping me, telling me not to do it because she can hear it in her mic, and that was about the 3rd time she's tapped me. So that's what we're all laughing about. So anyhow, the water came up, and knowing the river enough and exploring it enough, I was like, oh, cool, people can get through that slough. So I recommended some customers, and they went through it. And so it's good that we're out on it a lot, and we get to explore it and know what you kind of can't do in high water versus low water. And when it's low, it's like we know the best swimming beaches, the best sandbars, the best drop-offs, and we know where the nesting habitats are. And then another thing that I lead is...
Yeah, I was going to kind of ask you too, like, let's kind of dive into a little bit of some of the specialty paddles that you guys are doing.
Yep. One of the favorite ones that people like that I do, and it's my favorite way to experience the river, is we go down at night. We put in usually half hour before sunset, kind of get on the water and sort of get out there and get used to it. And if we put in at Croix Falls, we typically take that half hour and go up into the Dalles and look at the cliffs. And then turn back around, and the sun sets, and the moon comes up, and the stars come out, and we go out on a clear night, and it's pretty magical.
Well, just this last Friday, we did our first collaboration between Treehouse Studio and Paddlefish Adventures, and it was a moonlight paddle and poetry night.
Okay.
And that's not even a typical poetry type of thing too. Was as an artist, I always know that like when somebody has an event for an artist, like they're trying to get you to produce something.
Yeah.
And that can be pretty exhausting because it's hard to like be in the moment and enjoy the experience, and then also then think about what you're trying to produce. So we thought about it a little bit differently. Since David has this like really bizarre night vision, to which I do not have, we allow him to guide it, and then you just trust that you're okay. But we're always okay. I can't see as well as he does. I really can't see anything at all. But when we're going down, I wanted all of the writers that signed up for this experience to just be free to experience it and not feel like they had to produce anything. So we did it as a 2-part event. The first part would be, take this trip with David, let him guide you, like experience it, see the stars, we had a meteor shower. There was luckily clear skies after many days of rain, and then we got the Beaver Slap Alley going, which is when the tails start flying out because you're spooking them, and then we heard the owls and the coyotes, all that great stuff. Fireflies were twiddling all over the place, and fish were jumping, and like it's just cool. It's a very different way, and like all of the critters in the valley like come out at night. They do because we're gone, right? And it's a little safer for them. So they're starting to make a ton of noise, and we had about 15 boats, or 15 people, I should say, not 15 boats. And everybody's just quiet and like taking it in. And that was another thing too, is like, we're not going to talk. Like, yeah, we'll get to know each other a little bit, but this is more just for you to be out here. It's not for you to be making new best friends. But as we're getting down, and like we went from, I think we put in at about 9, and then we finished up at about midnight. And then we invite them to come back, and they'll come to Treehouse Studio this time, and we'll have a bonfire. And then they just get to share what they wrote. They get 2 weeks in between, and then they can come and like read either a song that they wrote or a poem that they wrote or a short story or whatever comes to mind. And we'll see those. We have the follow-up event on the 25th, and we'll see how that goes. But stuff like that is what we want to do. And we have another one where there's a paint and paddle. So you'll be paddling down the river, and then you'll be making stops to watercolor paint as you're going down. It's just a slightly different way to enjoy the same activity with a different group of people, and then giving them an opportunity to do that. And then we have 2 really fun ones. One with a local history buff, Greg Seitz. He's going to lead a history tour of the St. Croix River.
Very cool.
He's St. Croix 360.
He's St. Croix 360, yeah. So if you're not following that, you should, because it's really, really great.
It's an online publication.
Yeah.
stcroix360.com.
Yeah. And it'll tell you everything about the St. Croix Valley. He's a very knowledgeable person and a great writer. So he decided to do a history tour from the Dells all the way down to Osceola. And then we have a lichen specialist, a mycologist coming.
Okay.
If you don't think you care about lichen, go on this trip and you're going to become a lichen lover. It's his enthusiasm for lichen. It's amazing.
We're talking about like the lichen that grows on rocks.
Lichen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, lichen. And it's just like another thing like that we kind of overlook. It's what makes the valley so beautiful. It gives you that like kind of minty green color and the orange color and yellow color. And when you get up close, we have these little jeweler's loops that the people in the front of the boat will have. And we'll paddle them up right against the rock edge, and then they get to lean in and look with this little microscope, and you start to see like all of these little like funneled tube shapes, and they glow with a UV light.
They look like coral.
They look like coral.
When you look at them close.
Really?
Yeah. And they're basically the lungs of the valley. I mean, they're breathing in and breathing out, and they're purifying the air. And this particular person, his name is Tanner Barnhurst. He is just a ton of fun. I mean, I've gone through the woods with them once. We did like a test run, and we were like crawling around on the ground with these little jeweler's loops to look at lichen. I didn't know I was going to love it that much, and now it's kind of all I think about. So,
it's one of those things. We've encountered a few people like that where they're so excited about this obscure thing that you just can't help getting excited about it.
Yeah,
Sure.
We have another one that we're working on. She's an interpreter for. I always forget the name of that park, but it's Fort Snelling Park. So she's an interpreter there, and she happens to be outrageously passionate about the mussels. And we have 120 freshwater species.
Yep.
They're technically clams, and she will tell you.
And some that are no longer like. There's like I know the whole moon eye shad situation. I forget what was it, the spotted. I can't remember what particular mussel is, but it has a symbiotic relationship with the moon eye shad.
Yes.
Since the dam's been in, they have not been able to. The moon eye shad have not been able to migrate in their annual spring.
Yeah.
Really drawing a blank on words tonight, but anyways, since the dam's in, they can't go north.
Yes.
And there's still mussels north that haven't been technically like.
They can't procreate.
They can't, and they're. I mean, we're talking how long's the dam been there?
Yeah. Oh, well, really long. I don't even know when they put that in, but it's been a long time.
So it's kind of there's a lot of very unique cases like that within the St. Croix Valley.
And there's particular species that they're working really hard to protect for that reason, and that every single fish has a relationship with a mussel, and the mussel can't exist without the fish, and the fish really depends heavily on the mussel, because the mussel's cleaning the water. I mean, we depend on it too.
Yeah.
But again, it's like this weird little thing that you see in the water and like kids like to play with that you kind of overlook. But then when you start to learn about them, I mean, they do the same thing that anglers do.
Yep.
Like the mussel will throw out this little flashy thing that looks like a lure to catch the fish. Like it's brilliant. And she described it as being sexy. And I was like, that's weird. But it is. It like actually is when you really start to learn about it. And how this entire system just kind of functions without us. We don't need to be there. It's better if we're not, frankly.
And the fish that these mussels need the symbiotic relationship are considered rough fish.
Yeah.
Like it even says in the DNR book, and people bow hunt them and think that they're these garbage fish species, and they'll throw them up on shore, and meanwhile we need them.
I did a podcast with the gentleman who started, I think it's roughfish.com. Drew Geving is his name. He's out of the Twin Cities. and he's big. There, it was probably like 3 years ago, Minnesota decided that they were going to start putting regulations together for rough fish, because part of it, when you get lumped in that rough fish category, there's no funding that goes to do any research for rough fish. So part of his advocacy was, well, there's all these, species that play a role in the ecosystem that are just lumped into this garbage trash can. We don't know anything about them because nobody wants to spend any money on them. So they had proposed limits and things like that, which actually now are, on Red Horse and other things. I haven't stayed too much in touch with how that has all sliced and diced, but it got through, and it was really interesting learning about that, because I'm a fisherman. I'm an angler. I enjoy fishing. I enjoy eating fish. I enjoy harvesting fish. I guide fishermen.
As do we.
But I've always struggled with bow fishing.
Yeah.
There is a limit to, I get, you want to take a few carp, put in a compost heap to kind of liven things up. I even understand that.
Totally.
But at what point does a 55-gallon drum seem to be a little bit excessive?
Just a little. Yeah.
So it's a personal struggle. I don't want to condemn anybody.
No.
Sure.
But on the same token, I'm glad to, there's people who care about some of these things, and it's what I find really cool is you guys are bringing in that enthusiasm and to educate people. One of the reasons that I like to guide, especially the fishing style I like to guide, is I always looked at it as, if I can give somebody a little crumb or a little tip that gets them to kind of step and repeat what we did here today, maybe even come back out and fish the same damn river because they learned something, like, I'm making an impact on this landscape, plus hopefully future generations, and getting people to enjoy the same things I love, but also care about, learn more about them. The river here, we are so damn blessed, but it's kind of this weird thing, in the fact that, how many people travel over the St. Croix on any given weekend. They don't stop, they don't pay any attention, and they're going up to cabin country in northern Wisconsin, or they're coming over from Wisconsin, heading up to cabin country in Minnesota. It's truly like this little hidden gem. I'm amazed at how close we are to the Twin Cities, and how many people have never been on it.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say I'm from the St. Croix Valley, and they look at me like I'm from planet Mars or something. I'm like, where is that?
No, if you live in the East Metro, it's like 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's the top of the watershed of the country, and it's a beautiful watershed, beautiful water, and it's threatened. I mean, there's mines and farming and stuff going on, and all the mussels. It's like a lot of them live here that don't live anywhere else, and species like the paddlefish we named our business after.
Yeah.
They live down south because they get these weird plankton blooms and stuff down there. Up here, like the plankton in the cold water, it doesn't occur as often, but it occurs in the dalles of the St. Croix. And there, you probably know a little bit about these kind of fish, Brian, but for those that don't,
No, just go into it, man. I know a little bit about paddlefish.
Big, huge bill on the front of there, and they're kind of like this weird upside down fish, like that bill's almost on the top of it, and their eyes are like below it. And
They got like
a crayfish.
like a blunt, they kind of almost look like a blunt-faced swordfish.
Yeah.
They have that snout, and they suck in all of this algae and plankton, and they're filter feeders.
Yeah.
So that nose, it actually has like a measurable amount of electricity in it.
Oh, really?
And it works like a satellite dish and scanning the water up above them
Sure.
for this freshwater plankton. We sculpted one at the Winter Carnival this year, and I was talking to this kid about it, and he goes, "Is it zooplankton or phytoplankton?" I'm like, I don't know.
I'm not a plankton.
So I had to go look it up, but it was funny. I'm like, you're smart.
That's a good segue, though. Of like,
Yeah.
we don't know everything.
No.
And we're not, we'll meet people where they are, and we'll come where we are, and we know what we know, and we find other people that know a lot of stuff too.
And when we encounter something that we don't know, speaking for me and Jessica here, like we tend to get really excited.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a really good learning experience for them also, because typically I'll go home, I'll do a bunch of research, I'll look it up, I'll figure it out, and then I'll like email them. I'll be like, oh, this is what that was, and
that is
so
more true than you know. Yeah.
So the paddlefish, they see the freshwater plankton in the water above them, and then they kind of swim straight up, and they inflate their gills like a big balloon, and they have baleen in it like whales do, and they go up and they filter feed these things out, and their skin, they don't have scales. It's almost like a shark skin on them. They're super bizarre.
Yeah.
Crazy fish.
Yeah, I know of guys that fish them down south. I think there's a few places that you can reservoirs and things where you can actually harvest one of these fish. I don't know that I don't know enough about them. I've never tried paddlefish. But they're definitely restricted in a lot of other areas as well.
I think they're here too.
Yeah. Are they up in the northern or this part of the St. Croix?
They're in the Dalles, yeah.
They are?
They did.
I did not know that.
Actually, if you go on St. Croix 360, Greg's publication, the DNR was doing a fish count. I think they were looking for walleye or something, and they did that thing where they zapped the water, and they found 3 big ones.
Wow.
And they said, based on that, they figure there's a breeding stock of paddlefish up here, and they're kind of cut off and separated from the ones down south. So
wow,
it's really neat.
Yeah, that is.
They got
neat.
Their own little aquarium up here that they live in.
So how would you catch a filter fish?
Oh, I imagine it's probably involves snagging.
Yeah, it would have to. I can't imagine it being interested in anything you have. I think
they snag them. So now I get the Google updates for anything relating to paddlefish. And a guy bow fished. What's the term? Bow fished.
Bow fish, yeah.
We'll go with bow fished.
Yeah.
He bow fished one, and it had tag in the lower lip, and so he reported it. And he was down in like Alabama, and this thing was bred in North Dakota, like a DNR fish hatchery.
Really?
It was tagged in North Dakota like 40 years ago or something.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So it made it, all the way down these rivers, and I think it went all the way down and then basically did a U-turn and went up another river, and that's where the guy shot it. And so he got a letter from North Dakota, like thanking him for reporting it. And
thank you for killing our fish.
They get valuable research out of that. I mean,
absolutely.
It's the one thing with that kind of research. The guy putting the tag on, he knows that. Almost hoping that that fish is going to be recovered at some point, so they can get that information. But
it sounded like that was a big shock to everyone.
Yeah, that'd be kind of shocking.
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't botch the details on that, but, it was impressive.
So I assume that's kind of what obviously spawned the name of the business, or?
Yeah, I think we were looking at just brainstorming. We had a notebook with a bunch of different names in it. We were going back and forth. And we're like, what about paddle? And we're like, paddle north, no, taken. Paddle this, paddle that. And then we're like, how about paddle fish? And
it was between paddlefish and something with beaver, because the beaver population on the river is so huge. And they're such an active part of our interaction with the river. I mean, we go down to try to swim with them all the time, and it's a lot of fun. But
you should tell that story.
Okay. We are strange people that like to swim at night. We have a spot that we will not tell you about, but we have a spot that we like to go swim, and there's a beaver lodge there, and they've gotten so used to us being there, and we know what time they come out. It's about 7 p.m. And we go down without the dogs, of course, and we just stay with our noses just barely above the water line, and you just kind of hover and stay really, really still, and they'll swim around us and kind of check us out. They'll actually swim almost directly at us and then make a quick turn, either to the left or right, and then circle around us. And then you can see them swimming underneath around you, kind of scoping you out. And as long as you're respectful and stay still and don't come at them quickly, we just kind of move really slow. They'll let us kind of stay and listen and watch everything they do. You can hear them chewing under the water, and you can watch them grab stuff and bring it back for the littles, and then you'll start hearing the littles start chewing almost immediately when they return. I don't know, it's pretty fun. We do it a lot. And we've had some friends come, and we'll take them out to have them experience it too. And we have some pretty excitable friends that went out even during a rainstorm so that they could experience it. It was April. It was really cold.
That sounds really cold.
Yeah, it was not comfortable. But, push your boundaries. But yeah, So we love the beaver. So it was hard to decide whether or not it was paddlefish or beaver because they're both so important and so bizarre and cool. But paddlefish ended up winning out. So
Had paddle in the name.
and it's also a great logo.
It's a good logo.
Yeah.
So, I guess the only other thing we didn't mention is, you're also offering we're still kind of working on some of the details and working through some guided fishing trips.
Yeah, and you were talking about some of your fishing.
Yeah.
I guess to catch people up, I was actually building out this studio, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. Working in construction for the past 25 years, radio got very redundant very quickly, hearing the same songs over and over again. And so I discovered podcasts, and I work 8 to 12 hour days, so I can burn through podcasts. And I think I just typed in St. Croix River into Apple Podcasts and listened to the first one that came up, and it was you. You were on someone else's podcast.
The Destination Angler podcast. Yeah.
Listened to that whole thing and then called you. And when I was listening to that, I was envisioning you coming down and just leading like a special night, like a one-off thing with a group of people talking about fishing, which I think we should still do. But you were like, well, I just moved to the area. I could do a little more often. So. You are on our website as a fishing guide, and you will do, individual fishing guiding or small groups, and we're kind of hoping it becomes a regular thing to where you take a few boats out every Tuesday night or something, and people can jump in on that, or you can do kind of private one-on-one fishing guide service, and
I think it'd be, what my goal would be, at least with this, is to give people the tools so that they can come back, rent a canoe from you, and go down and have a good time on their own. You know? Mm-hmm. So more of kind of like, hey, what kind of opportunities exist in the St. Croix? What am I looking for? How do we, work a few, different tactics here and try to catch some fish?
Yeah.
That's really at the end of the day, I think where I want to play. You know, again, giving back to that. Generational thing, passing down knowledge, and then giving people the confidence and the skill set to be able to go do it on their own. The river's different every day.
It is.
Literally different every day. What works one day may not. Is that a loon?
Yeah.
Hey, at least you got a good ring. But, it changes so much that if you can kind of understand a few different simple tactics, usually you can scratch out a decent day of fishing.
Yeah, and I'm like a 2-trick pony out fishing. I got like 2 lures I know how to use, and I'll throw them out a couple dozen times, and if nothing bites, I'm like, well, I don't know, I'm out of ideas. I tried my 2 things.
Needless to say, we don't get to eat a lot of fish. So.
Yeah.
There's a few different tactics, but to be honest with you, usually even just having one or two real good tricks in your bag usually produces a few fish.
I catch smallmouth in the evenings with some regularity, but
we had one incredible week-long trip on the Croix River, which is also a beautiful place to paddle, but we were out there for about 5 days, and we ate rock bass every day.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like, everything I brought was unnecessary except for the stuff to cook it with. So.
I think that's the thing with my fishing. I've been places that just spoiled me.
Yeah.
Where you could throw in a hook with a bit of pancake on it and catch a 40-inch northern. So you go from that to here where you have to work a little bit harder for it. It's like, all right, I'm bored.
I can relate. I've got a few places in northern Minnesota where it's like, you drive the truck back 3 miles on a 2-track logging road, then hoof the canoe another 40 rods in, go through a beaver pond, and then another 20 yard or rod portage, and then you have this whole lake to yourself.
Yeah.
And literally, my wife and I had the canoe out, and I was like, I'm catching walleyes off the freaking campsite on a rock, sitting there. Why even bother going the canoe? Like, sit here all afternoon and catch walleyes.
I was at a place in Canada on a river, kind of a lakey part of a river where it winds out. it was a little bit of a flood stage, and I found a point to camp on, and there was like reeds out from the camp, and it was like 6 inches of water, and I was throwing out a green and orange jointed Rapala kind of between the reeds, and northerns were swimming through those reeds in 6 inches of water, jumping clean out of the water and landing on them.
They don't happen every day.
No, it's just wild. Big ones, 38, 40 inches, and, it spoils you a little bit.
It does spoil you. Yeah. You appreciate when fishing's good down here, though.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a good day
Yeah.
down here, you definitely appreciate it more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But-
We've had good nights, but we have so much fun on the river, whether we're fishing or we're not, that when they're not, when they don't bite with my 2 tricks, we're like, all right, let's go check out this channel over here, and let's go swimming, let's go hang out with the beavers. So,
What have you been catching out here?
Mostly smallmouth.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's, for me, that's what I like to target.
yeah.
I'm pretty much a catch and release fisherman these days for the most part, unless it's like panfish. So nothing fights quite like a smallmouth, and I don't know, they feel really good to release. It's just one of it's a sport fish, and I don't know, I grew up in a family that literally that's all we did was hunt fish, and I had the privilege of going salmon fishing all the time when I was a kid. So there was no shortage of fish around. We walleye fished and salmon fished.
Wow.
And I just kind of, I don't know, you reach a point in life where you got to try something different. So musky fishing and smallmouth fishing really kind of wore into me for a while. And I don't know, once you start fly fishing for smallmouth bass, like it becomes highly addictive. Highly addictive. Yeah, top water fishing for smallmouth bass, there just really isn't anything better.
For their weight, they put up the biggest fight.
Yeah, and they're fairly easy to target. Like there's not a lot of science behind it. There's, you're not trying to anchor the boat in the right position to kind of catch the current right so you can hit this perfect drift for a walleye, and it's just huck and chuck kind of stuff, which I appreciate that. It allows me to look at nature more and not worry so much about catching a damn fish.
Yeah. That's how we did the crowing on the trip Jessica was talking about. How old was Joe then?
Our son was
7?
Like 7, yeah.
And I have a tandem kayak with rudder pedals on the back seat to control the rudder, and he had one of those little tiny kid paddles. And he didn't really care for fishing. He liked to see me catch fish, and so he was able to paddle the kayak just hard enough with that paddle where my rudder could work. And so I called him my little trolling motor.
Those are nice to have.
Yeah.
Give me a couple paddles on the right. Give me a couple paddles on the left. And I would just kind of keep the thing going down the middle of the stream and cast at the rocks. Actually, Jessica was floating ahead of us, and she could see the fish, and she'd point at them. And that was the killer combo. I got a
Man, we ate good.
I got a 21-inch smallmouth on that river.
That's nice.
Had big crazy warts all over it, like coming out the lip. It was gnarly looking.
Did we eat that? No, we didn't.
I think
eat
we
that.
threw that one back. This big ugly guy.
Yeah, those are definitely typically candidates for release.
Yeah. Not sure what happened to you. There you go.
It was exciting though. It was a big smallmouth.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun.
And
Yeah, them smallmouth take a long time to grow.
really,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like that 21, I mean, depending on the river, but up here at the colder water, like a, 20-inch smallmouth is teens
Oh, wow.
of years.
Yeah.
They take a long time to grow.
yeah,
And there's subspecies, down in like, the Ozarks, some of those fish take really long to grow. Like 20 years to get to be a couple pound fish.
yeah. Huh.
Yeah. It's,
That one earned the right to be thrown back.
Yep. Yeah. Usually the big ones do for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
man, I've caught a 7 pound plus smallmouth on the St. Croix. Freak of nature.
Just a
Never
tank.
seen anything quite that big ever in my life. Like within a pound,
Yeah.
not even that. You
Right.
know,
How many inches is that?
it was 23.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, again, biggest smallmouth I've ever caught in my life.
Yeah.
Biggest smallmouth I've ever seen. I could
Right.
I could fit my fist inside of that
Yeah.
that smallmouth's mouth.
I believe it.
Like a largemouth.
Right.
That's how big this. I mean, the eye on it was bigger than my thumbnail. Like it just a tank.
Yeah.
Top water.
Yeah.
You let him go?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother and I both caught fish. My brother caught 2 fish over 5 pounds that day. I caught 1 over 5, and that 7.8 pound fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. All in just normally in smallmouth, they like rocks or like timber, like odd stuff they can hide under. These fish were just sitting in a sand flat. It was just a really bizarre deal.
I got a big one in the Boundary Waters trolling across the middle of the lake once.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only one who caught the entire trip.
I've had a couple Boundary Water trips like that.
But it was, they're normally by the shore, and this one was right in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
Somehow I had fresh dill and butter with us.
Oh, speaking of fishing trips, so Jessica's a fantastic cook. Ask anybody that knows her. And again, with our businesses, we just think of ideas, right? It's the ideas come easy. It's making them happen. But, I think one of your fishing trips, we kind of loosely plan on having a cookout down at Osceola.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And maybe you text me halfway through, like, yeah, we have a few to throw on the grill.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we do a good cookout. That'd be fun.
Run to the meat market and grab some brats and hamburgers quick.
I can do it either way.
We could do that, yeah. Contingency plan. But that'd be fun. For a small group, to have a little cookout afterwards.
Yeah, do a little shore lunch or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that sounds fun. Can I ask you how you feel about noodling?
I mean,
Have you done it?
No.
Would you do it?
If somebody that knew what they were doing taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be game for it.
We've been curious about it for a decade.
I'd be open to it, but snapper turtles. What
Yeah.
about snapper turtles? Like, it just seems like a crazy thing to do, to go stick in your hand and these
Again,
holes
I would want to go with somebody that knew what they were doing.
And let them do it.
I have seen some very big snapping turtles in this river.
Huge.
Oh, yeah.
Big enough that I feel like I could lose more than one finger,
Oh,
like multiple
yeah.
fingers.
We
And I don't know if you've ever seen a snapping turtle bite a stick,
Yeah.
but they're no joke.
No.
They're all business up front.
And they have to lock down before they can release, so that's not great.
we paddled over one. It was before we moved here, but it was down by William O'Brien State Park and on the back channels, and it was just laying completely still on the bottom with its mouth open, and the shell was 4 feet across. I mean, the mouth could easily fit your fist in it, easily.
Yeah.
We see catfish. The reason other than just plain curiosity from our part of like we're big fans of strange things that we don't know much about, and I think it's really interesting. And we love going out at night, right? And when we do go out at night, we do see a lot of catfish hunters that are going out at night.
Oh, and there's big catfish in that stretch.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite fish to eat. That's what I grew up eating. I don't know that I would want to eat a giant one, but I think it would be kind of fun to give it a try.
I think it's the smaller ones that are better to eat, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up in this I told you, salmon and walleye. Super privileged when it comes to fish.
I was perch and catfish.
And I don't mind perch either.
I love
I grew up eating perch fillets. But
Where'd you get the salmon?
Lake Michigan. So I grew up over in
sure.
eastern Wisconsin.
Sure.
Yeah, you can have all the salmon you want. I'm salmoned out. I will take coho trout, though.
Oh, sure.
They're coho salmon, and rainbows. Like I do like those, but king salmon, it's all yours.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the salmon, but he loves it, especially for breakfast.
Actually, I will take that back. Yeah, I will deep fry my salmon the next time I have salmon.
Never done it that way.
Cut it in little bites, toss it in shore lunch,
I would
fry
eat
it up
that.
like a walleye.
Sounds good.
It is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I like cured salmon the best. It's like lox.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
I don't mind that stuff. You take me to a brunch that's got a little lox and cream cheese and a bagel, like I'm down with that.
Yeah. I do a sugar cure on salmon when we get it.
Now I do like smoked fish too, and I do occasionally will smoked fish, and
Yep.
that's usually what I do with my salmon. Is cut it into cubes and smoke it.
What's that place in Duluth on Park Point? Northern Smokehouse?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Good job.
They got whitefish in there too.
They do a cracked
good.
pepper coriander salmon smoked salmon. Cracked pepper coriander smoked salmon. That is very good.
It's the best. We actually go there when we go up to Duluth. We'll go there and we'll just take the fish on the beach and just sit down and eat it. Like we don't need anything else.
I grew up going to Door County all the time
Yeah.
as a kid, and there's Gills Rock has a smokehouse up there, and I'm a sucker for that whitefish.
Yeah, the whitefish is good.
And I do the same thing. Go down and find not really a lot of sandy, well, depending on what side of the point you're on, but we go around to the bay and typically sit on some of the rocky stone pebble beaches and just mow down whitefish, drink a cocktail, watch the sunset go down.
Just kind of hope there's no bears around.
There's plenty of Illinois bears, and Chicago fans and fibs and things like that over in that side of the.
That's where I'm from.
I won't hold it against you.
Not my fault. I didn't choose it.
Yeah, my mom grew up down there, so I only feel like I've earned that slightly. Half my family's from the Chicagoland area. And, when you grow up in eastern Wisconsin, it's far worse. I haven't lived over there for almost 15 years now. But, when they finished highway or Interstate 43.
That's where my family is now.
Yeah, straight up to Door County they go every weekend. My dad that lives up there in the summertime still, and I don't really like to go visit him because of all the people.
Yeah.
North Shore's gotten really busy.
Yes,
I've been going my whole life, and we used to we'd have our free spots, and occasionally if we're pulling in late, we could just pull into a state park or something, and there's no free spots anymore, and there's no openings at state parks anymore. It's really, really tough. You have to plan it like a year in advance, and we're just not planners like that. We like to just kind of go.
We have two businesses of all planning, so we prefer our vacations.
There's some national forest campgrounds that are close to the North Shore that you can still get away with that stuff.
And
let's not mention where those are.
No.
That's where we went last time we went up there. Actually, I was last summer with my dad, and we slept through 6 inches of rain and woke up, and our tent was magically set up on a high spot, but the rest of the campground was completely flooded.
Yeah.
And we had to drive like 3 hours out of our way to get home. That was interesting.
Really?
Because the roads were washing out. Yeah.
Was that was last summer?
That was last summer.
I feel like it was spring, but that's fine.
Early summer. It was like June.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, we love it up there.
So I guess
it there. Love the St. Croix.
Yeah, kind of to bring things back home. Anything that you guys want to express, repeat, anything we missed?
One thing I would love to say is if there's anybody out there that doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't feel comfortable, we have a couple of options as far as learning. So there's a river paddle for learning, and then there's also a lake paddle for learning. And that's you would be with David, and he'll even make you swamp it. And get back in, climb back in, get all your stuff, all of that stuff. So you're going to feel super comfortable.
Boy Scout training.
I'm very thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm biased maybe, but he's very friendly and a ton of fun. So
You're going to make them take their jeans off and blow those up for
That's
a PFD?
a good idea. That's a great idea. I don't think I will. Not too many people are wearing jeans, but that is a fun exercise.
It is a fun exercise. I went through that one as a kid.
Yeah. I think all that training, sometimes when you're doing it, it seems silly, so you might as well laugh about it when you do it. But then, down the road, if you ever do tip your canoe over, all of a sudden that kind of kicks in, and you're like, all right, this isn't the end of the world. We can paddle it like this, or we can use our buddy to help us unswamp it. So it's, all that funny training, it can come into... it can be useful, and then
you might have to run me through a refresher course because it's been at least 30 years since I probably had to do that with the Boy Scouts.
We have that too, and then we're also really concerned about accessibility. We want to make sure that people can get on the river, and if we can work with you, we had a woman contact us who has issues with her knees, and she has a kayak that she has a hard time getting in and out of, and we're more than happy to work together to try to figure out a system that gets you in and out of that boat pain-free, and whatever that looks like, we're going to reach out to some folks that can help kind of train us in what the best practices are for that. But if you have any questions or anything, you can reach out to us on the website. It's not a problem. We'll find a way
What's the website?
Go for it.
Paddlefishadventures.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we, in the future, hopefully next year, we're going to work on building an accessibility dock that we can tow behind our vans to get people of all abilities into the boats and out of the boats. We are working on putting together a paddle for the blind, so we'll partner able visioned people to paddle blind people around on the river so they can experience too, because it's just as much about the sound and the smells and everything else, and we just hate to leave people out, and all different groups, all different communities, nationalities, all that. We want everyone to feel welcome and to come out here and be able to get to experience it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a great stretch it offers everything for the experienced angler or paddler, but I think it really does lend itself to first time newer paddlers.
Yeah.
There isn't any real rapids on that stretch, so there's no worry about running into rocks and wrapping a canoe around rocks.
No, nothing like that. Some people got hurt on like trees dangling over. They've gotten tangled up in those, but that's easy enough to avoid.
Little common sense helps in those equations.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's been some tragedies, but yeah, a little bit of common sense and paying attention, and I think a lot of those there's alcohol involved too. So, yeah.
Know your skill level,
Yep.
right, and approach things from that skill level.
Yep. And then a lot of the more in-depth tours that we're planning on doing, hopefully bring some people in who have a lot of experience and they're just looking to learn something new or to be with an interesting group and see something new.
So, paddlefishadventures.com, people can book these excursions online? Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Or if they don't find what they're looking for, have questions,
definitely reach out.
Yep.
Yeah, we have a lot of special events on there and guided tours and stuff, but certainly a lot of them that I've been doing this year, it's been people who reach out and they say, hey, like one of them was for a wildlife photographer, and he heard me talking about the great blue heron rookery, and so he wanted me to take him out there so you could take pictures of the baby great blue herons, and so I set that up for him. So if there's something that you don't see on the website, let me know and we'll make it happen.
I'm assuming if somebody has heard this podcast and they have some obscure specialty niche about the St. Croix, you'd
Please
like to hear from them too.
Absolutely.
Putting it out there, we're looking for turtle people.
Yeah.
Jessica, where can people find your information about Treehouse Studio?
Yeah, so you can visit the website, which is Treehouse, spelled Treehaus, studio, and then it's .org.
Okay. If you guys want to make sure you give me the right, I have Paddlefish. You'll have to send me your email address or website, and I'll make sure to include that in the show notes for folks. Any last comments?
No, but thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you for welcoming me here. I got to. It's a very impressive frog. I really do like it. It's very artistic. I almost should take a picture for the podcast.
Please do. If anybody wants to visit the frog, if they happen to be in the Minnesota area, the giant frog that we've been weirdly talking about will be placed in Fridley, Minnesota at the Moore Lake Park. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
It's not obscure either.
It's pretty weird.
It looks like a frog waiting to pounce.
That's great. I love it, but I want it gone.
On to the next project.
Yeah. The next one will be a giant wood duck. So, catch me in a year.
Oh, that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
Well, right on. Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and tuning in to another episode of the Amaazen Outdoors podcast. Please like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. It'd be great if we could get a few more listeners here at the show. Reminder to join your local conservation efforts. Just got to get out there and do the work, man. And sometimes, we can't do the work. We got office jobs or whatever it is. So all the money helps. help and join your local conservation group. Quick shout out to HW Launchers, Hunt Ready, RPM Training Products, Prairie Chicken Project of Wisconsin, Wisconsin Sharp-tailed Grouse Society, Rough Grouse Society, Pheasants Forever. I got to get out and do some dog training. We'll see you guys on the next show.
There's a woodcock.